Hey guys, it is still just about Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome's Awareness Month, and I know I took on a crazy challenge of trying to get loads of videos out to you for Awareness Month during my uni deadline season. Crazy, I know, but I have done it, even if they have been slightly late. I'm sorry for that. Normal service will resume next week, I promise. So on one of my EDS Awareness Month videos, a lovely person called MH commented saying that they're great awareness videos, and it was probably really hard to find people without hypermobile EDS, but I'd really love to see some rarer types represented. So I took that challenge, and here they are. I have been wanting to get some people with different types of EDS on these videos for so long, and just no one's come forward. So I have managed to find two lovely ladies to talk to you about their types. So I have got Katie, who is called the Translucent One on YouTube, and she is talking about her type, which is vascular type. I've got the wonderful Poppy, who is talking about her extremely rare type of EDS, Kyphoscoliotic type. Us people with HSD or HEDS find it so hard because our condition is so rare. Really, it's just rarely diagnosed, and it's much more common than people think. However, these types of EDS really are rare, so I wanted to know how difficult it was for them. It's really interesting learning about different types and the things that we can do to help Ehlers-Danlos syndromes as a whole, rather than just a specific type. I'll let the lovely ladies introduce themselves and their types.
Hi, my name's Katie, and I have Vascular Ehlers Danlos Syndrome.
Hiya, I'm Poppy, I'm 24 and I have Kyphoscoliotic Ehlers Danlos Syndrome, also known as type 6 EDS. So my type is one of the rarer types of EDS. When I was diagnosed a couple of years ago, it was about 60 people, they said, had ever been diagnosed with it, which is obviously very rare. I've heard otherwise since, that it's maybe around the 80, 85 mark, but you know, that's still not a lot considering that's ever to be diagnosed in the world.
I also really wanted to know what the main differences are between the different types of Ehlers-Danlos syndromes, because I do not know enough.
When I think of EDS, I feel like I think of the people who like go straight into a back bend onto the ground, or they just dislocate everywhere, or their skin is like super stretchy. With vEDS, I don't have that stretchy skin. I don't have that super hypermobility. I do have like a little bit of it, like in my hands and stuff, and in my feet. This shoulder is a little bit hypermobile. I can reach all parts of my back, and made taking my own stitches out really easy. But other than that, I don't have a lot of bendiness or stretchy skin. What I have is thin, fragile skin. It's kind of see-through, so in the right light you can see the veins over my entire body. And my type causes spontaneous artery ruptures and organ ruptures, like the bowel is a big one, and the uterus can rupture during pregnancy. Arteries can just dissect spontaneously, and it's a bit more involved in that way. It's a bit scary, and a lot shorter life expectancy.
I think with a lot of the types of EDS, you don't always know you've got it until a later stage of life. Whereas with my type, for me anyway, and a couple of people I've spoken to with it, the symptoms are very obvious from birth. With me, it was the hypertonia, so I've got low muscle tone, decreased muscle tone, so I'm very floppy, and I was as a baby. However, because it's so rare, they misdiagnose it. Well, maybe not even rare, maybe just very commonly misdiagnosed or undiagnosed. So I actually thought I had something called muscular dystrophy until I was about 14, which affects just your muscles. And nothing's changed for me since getting my EDS diagnosis in the way of my symptoms, but it just means that having my diagnosis, I can find out more about how it could affect me in the future, how it affects other people with it, so that I can discuss and say, oh, how does this affect you, and sort of bounce off each other. I've only known disability. You know, I think with some of the types of EDS, the symptoms don't come on till much later in life. And I suppose in a way that could be harder, because you've experienced normality and what it's like to be able to do things and then have that taken away. Whereas I've never had that. I've never been able to do half the things that other people my age can do. So I could see it as a bad thing and I could see it as a good thing. Some days I see it as bad, some days I see it as good.
Just like everyone else, I wanted to know what their worst symptom was. We found a lot about that in one of my recent videos with the worst symptoms of HEDS. But what are the worst symptoms when you've got vascular EDS or kyphoscoliotic EDS?
I think that my worst symptom, I don't even know. I don't even know what my worst symptom is. I think my dissected artery that went unnoticed for a long time was pretty bad. But honestly, I think the worst symptom is emotional, because you don't meet anybody else with it and you try to tell people what you have and it's kind of like blank stare, or they don't really understand like really what you're going through. And you get a lot of the like, well, you know, just don't focus on it too much, or just like, no, I have to pay attention to things like my blood pressure and all these things that can cause my arteries to rupture. Like I have to pay attention to everything, and that's, I think, part of the worst symptom is like not knowing anybody with it, and also having to be somewhat hypervigilant but still maintain a balance of living your life and being careful.
My hypertonia means that I'm very weak. My muscles are very weak. I can't walk very far, so I use a wheelchair. I can't stand up for very long. I can't lift heavy things. I'll never be able to wear a pair of high heels. I can't run. I'll never go ice skating. There's a lot of things I can't do. I need a lift instead of a staircase. And if I do use the staircase, I'm in pain afterwards.
Those of us with HSD or HEDS think it's bad enough that doctors don't know anything about our conditions. So imagine having one of the rare types. I asked these lovely ladies how difficult it is to be quite so rare.
With it being so rare, going to the hospital is kind of a terrible experience most of the time. Like I've gotten lucky a couple times where the doctor actually listens to the fact that I don't have the regular form. I don't have one of the more common types of EDS, that I have the vascular type. I've had one ER doctor tell me that it's no different than any of the other types, and I'm no more likely to suffer a dissection, and he just feels like I'm just going to keep coming to the hospital every time that I'm in severe pain because, you know, he doesn't understand why, because I'm young, and then, you know, basically telling me he thinks I should stop coming to the ER. And I'm like, I have to know if I have a dissected artery. If I get spontaneous pain and there's no reason for it, I could have a dissected artery. And listening to this ER doctor tell me that my type of EDS was no different than the more common types was shocking, because it is so different. It does cause shorter life expectancies. It does cause spontaneous artery ruptures and crazy crap. Like, it's crazy. So I think that that's been a really hard part too of it being rare, is that doctors don't even know what it is. You tell them what it is and they ask you how to spell it. Or you hand them your emergency book that has all of the information and they just kind of put it on the table and don't even look at it. And that's like, whoa, if I wasn't conscious right now to tell you what it was that was going on, and you didn't look at my emergency bracelet and you didn't look at that book, and you tried to do an angiogram. I just talked to someone who like had to go undergo 12 surgeries to save her life from an angiogram. It's crazy. So that's a really hard part, being your own advocate.
I think the hardest thing about having a rare type like mine is the not knowing. So they've said to me that some of the risks involved with my type are risk of retinal detachment, so with your eyes, which could cause blindness, risk of your aorta in your heart your blood vessels and your arteries just rupturing spontaneously, no warning, you know, just it could just happen. You know, luckily I don't want kids, but if I did, it'd be very high risk and it could kill me or kill the baby or both. Luckily I really don't want kids, so it's fine, but you know, there's a risk of your uterus rupturing. However, because there's such a small group of people with it, I think it makes it harder because, you know, they could see 80 people with my type and 10 of them could have had blood vessels rupture. Now, with those 10, it might not necessarily be the EDS, but because it's such a small pool of people, they have to say it's a risk. Whereas if that was 10 out of 5,000 people, you know, it's not as much of a risk. They wouldn't immediately connect it. So, you know, it's the not knowing how old I'm going to be when I can't walk anymore. I already use a wheelchair, an electric wheelchair, quite a lot. I can't walk very far, and when I do, I'm in pain. I don't know if I'll be 40 and I'm unable to do anything. You know, the only person I can really relate to health-wise is my granny, who's 83 in a couple of days. No, 84 in a couple of days. Anyway, irrelevant. But yeah, I think it's just the not knowing.
Thank you so much to Katie and Poppy for sharing their stories. Head to the description for links to their YouTube channels where they explain a little bit more about Vascular Ehlers Danlos Syndrome and Kyphoscoliotic Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. I'm so glad we were able to raise some awareness for rarer types this EDS Awareness Month. Thank you so much for watching. If you've liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please hit subscribe. One more EDS Awareness Month video to come. I'll see you then.